Hello, and welcome to my review of TNA Victory Road 2024. Starting with the first pre-show match, which was Leon Slater versus Kushida. This was a fun, and I put in quotes, X-Division showcase. They like to call matches between X-Division type guys. I guess that's just TNA's term for mid-carders. I don't know. Yeah, it's just what they call it when it's an X-Division kind of mid-card match, but not really for anything. Apparently, Leon Slater's only 20, which I didn't know. I knew he was young, but 20, that's wild. Younger than the X-Division. In fact, the X-Division has been around longer than Leon Slater has been alive. He hit a big flip over the turnbuckle, over the ring post, all the way over everything to the outside, over the corner, just about landing on his feet. Sort of landed and then had to sort of bounce a bit and hop a bit and jump a bit to stay on his feet. That was a really cool spot. But as I predicted, Kushida won the match with the armbar, which he actually applied as like an avalanche. The bit where he jumps up and like levers you over by your arm. He did that from the top. So that was really fun. Good finish. In my predictions video yesterday, I predicted Kushida to win. So 1 from 1, baby. It's based on lots of science, which was, I know Kushida's a babyface, and I know Kushida's probably higher up the card than Leon Slater. That was it. Second pre-show match, second of 2, only 2 matches on this pre-show instead of like 4 multi-man tag matches on an AEW pre-show, and this was much more palatable, to be honest. This was Jake Something and Hammerstone versus Steve Macklin and Eric Young. I put this was pretty standard tag team fare, but I was surprised that Something and Hammerstone won. I'm curious now. I was predicting that Eric Young and Steve Macklin would win because I thought they would be the new team to come out of this story, but maybe they're just a one and done, or maybe it's like part of a story of them like figuring out how to be a team. Maybe the story is kind of like how Macklin doesn't generally play well with others. Maybe he's like learning to be a team player, I guess. Could be the story. I don't know. We'll wait and see. We will wait and see. But yeah, I'm 1 from 2 on predictions because I was pretty confident that Macklin and Young would win that match. But yeah, I was wrong. Anyway, on to the main show, which started with the Hardys versus First Class, comprised of AJ Francis and Casey Navarro. This was a good tag match. It was a little by the numbers, I felt. Heels working over the babyface, hot tag, wham bam, thank you, man, thanks for coming. But it was still good. It was still, well executed, entertaining enough. The crowd were into it. The finish, predictably, was the twist of fate from Matt, the swanton from Jeff, onto Casey Navarro for the 1, 2, 3. I predicted the Hardys to win. 2 out of 3. It ain't bad. Just ask Meatloaf. I feel like the Hardys now move up into the tag title scene, which was like what I said in my predictions video, having just got a victory over the System. As I said in my predictions, kind of doesn't matter who wins the tag titles there. The Hardys have cemented themselves as like a potential next challenger, right? Because they've either beaten the champions, if the System win, or they've beaten the number 1 contenders, who then got a title shot the next night against the champions. So surely if the Hardys can beat them and they can have a title shot, then the Hardys can have a title shot as well, right? I don't know. Let's see if it goes that way, but that's what I'm predicting. Next match, Speedball Mike Bailey versus Zachary Wentz for the X Division Championship that Wentz won like 2 weeks ago on Emergence. This is a great match. This was probably my match of the night. This was a lot of fun, lots of highlights, big spots, false finishes, etc. The sort of stuff you expect from an X Division title match, in this day and age. I was quite surprised. Mike Bailey won with the Flamingo Driver, which is a weird but cool move with a great name. A very appropriate name because of the one leg thing. Yeah, I love it. But I put poor Wentz very short reign. Like 2 weeks as X Division champion. Like, maybe they're going to tell a story out of this. Maybe he gets another run and it's a bit longer. Again, we'll wait and see before passing full judgment. But my prediction was that Wentz would win just because it had been 2 weeks. And, you know, like, felt a bit soon to take the title from him in his first defense after 2 weeks. But, again, we'll wait and see. We'll let it play out. We'll let it play out, guys. So, yeah, 50-50 on predictions after the first 4 matches, 2 out of 4. Next was a backstage promo by the System. This was pretty standard stuff. Edwards and Myers talked about how they were going to win the tag titles. Moose talked about how he was going to win the world title. JDC'd. And then Alicia Edwards brought in Masha Slamovich, which is Masha not officially part of the System? Because she was brought in as almost like an extra, even though they're tag champions together. She wasn't there from the start, which I thought was strange. And then she also brought in her injury replacement, who I didn't immediately recognise. Later, turns out it was Tasha Steelz, and I know Tasha Steelz. I was quite surprised I didn't recognise her. Also, apparently did some build to this on Explosion. I didn't even know Explosion was still going. Never mind watch it. So, my bad, y'all. I missed that. But yeah, this was a pretty generic heel stable with a bunch of matches tonight, cutting a promo about how they're all going to win. You know, that if you've not seen it, you've just seen it by me telling you that. Like, whatever you just imagined, it was that. Next match was scheduled to be Rhino and PCO versus Matt Cardona and Steph DeLander. SDL came out in a property of Matt Cardona shirt, which is a very blatant parody of the Property of Performance Center shirts that, you know, they all wear in the new signings pictures for WWE. Which, like, that's a Matt Cardona touch if ever I've seen one. I liked that. I don't, you know, like, obviously I'm not condoning the message, but I liked the execution of it. You know, that's funny. Anyway, SDL grabbed a microphone and cut a promo about how she needs neck surgery. Like, by the sounds of it, pretty urgently. Some of the fans started chanting at her while she was talking about, you know, life-changing surgery. And just, if you're a wrestling fan like that, just get in the bin. That's like, not only are you chanting a babyface cutting a promo, which you're supposed to do it to antagonize heels, or at least that was the origin of it way back, you know, 23 years ago. Like, that's how dated that chant is, by the way. But not only were you doing that, but she wasn't even cutting a promo. She was speaking, like, out of character, from the heart. I mean, a bit of it was in character, but mostly out of character, from the heart, about, you know, like I say, life-changing surgery. Neck surgery is no joke. That must be terrifying. I've never been in a position where I've had, like, serious concerns over, like, the health of my neck. But it doesn't get much more serious than that. Your neck and back, your central nervous system, that's everything. Like, if that goes, you can lose all your, like, you can be disabled. Like, a broken neck can be a cause of death. Like, you know, let's take a neck injury seriously and not chant the person, like, spilling her guts about it. Like, don't get me wrong, the speech did drag on a bit, especially when she started going through, like, the kayfabe stuff of talking to PCO as if he's actually a husband, you know, and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this was supposed to be a match, so they had a bit of time to kill, I guess. I don't know how long in advance they knew they weren't going to do this match, and we're going to do this angle instead. I don't know. It feels like it was built weird for something they knew was coming a way out. But who knows? Maybe someone has some inkling online. There's been some news released about it. I don't really spend a lot of time reading wrestling news anymore. I've been a much happier wrestling fan since I stayed clear of the IWC, except for, like, discussing it with people, like, in my Discord or on Twitter or Threads or whatever. Like, you know, other than that, I don't tend to spend a lot of time actually pursuing the backstage news and the gossip and stuff, and I'm a much happier fan for it. Anyway, so then Steph DeLander and PCO left, Then up next was Rhino, who, as he went to step out the ring, Matt Cardona kicked the middle rope to, kick it into Rhino's front area. Shout out to Larson. To obviously deliver a low blow and then hit radio silence. And I'm calling that a win for Cardona, which is what I predicted, a Cardona and SDL win. So 3 out of 5, baby. I'm counting it. I don't even care. I'm counting it. Because ain't no one predicted. I mean, maybe someone who's got their ear to the ground with the news maybe did predict, but anyone else, ain't no one predicting that match just simply did not happen. So, yeah, I'm counting that as a win. Up next, there was a Nick Nemeth promo. Again, pretty standard stuff. Fighting champion. Haven't beat Moose. Want to beat Moose. You get the idea. Next match was Spitfire versus Masha Salamovich and Tasha Steelz for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. Tag Team Championship. It's a singular championship with multiple belts. My bad. I always do that. In the video package before this match, there was a line that one of Spitfire said, which was, "We didn't come this far to not win the Knockouts Tag Team Championship." And I was like, that's my thoughts entirely. That was why I made the prediction I made. However, I found out during the match that they've already had the tag titles when I wasn't really watching. So was a little bit less confident in my prediction, because I'm like, okay, this entire road to finally winning the tag titles feels a little bit less special when you've already held the tag titles. like this year as well. Like not eons ago, like this year. But never mind, they won. Lol. I put in my notes. I put NVM. They won. Lol. Because I was just typing about how I wasn't that confident about my prediction anymore, and then they won. This was a fine match. It was obviously all about the story being told, the emotional connection to Spitfire winning, which is fine. But nothing specific about the match really stood out to me. But I did predict Spitfire to win, and they did. So 4 out of 6. Hell yeah! And like I say, I am legitimately counting that Matt Cardona win. Like, I'm counting it. He won the segment. After the Knockouts Tag Team title match, Alicia Edwards got in the ring and berated Masha Slamovich, who grabbed Alicia, but then Tasha Steelz hit Masha with a cutter, and then sat on her and punched her in the face a bit ground and pound. And I'm guessing the militia is done, which is a shame, because I only just got the name during the predictions video yesterday. So, shame, because it's a good name now that I understand it fully. Next, we had a backstage promo with Jake Something and Hammerstone, and apparently they're staying a team. So maybe I read that whole situation wrong, because it felt like they were just teaming up because they were both mad at the same 2 guys, and the 2 guys they were mad at were the guys really forming a team. But it seems those 2 are going to form a team, and honestly, that's a fun addition to the tag division, because that's going to be hard to compete with. Imagine ABC bumping for them. Imagine the system running from them. There's some fun stuff to happen in there. I reckon. Them 2 versus the Hardys could be interesting for sure. Anyway, next match was Josh Alexander versus Joe Hendry. We randomly got a Joe Hendry promo before this match, which I don't remember much of. It wasn't anything amazing from what I recall. But Josh Alexander just let him cut a promo while they're both in the ring. I'd have been like, nah, mate, and just gone and started fighting him. This was a very good match. The crowd was mega into it, obviously especially into Joe Hendry. There was a ref bump, probably 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the match, and then Joe Hendry got the visual tap with Josh Alexander's own ankle lock, which I was like, oh no, I predicted Joe Hendry to win, and a visual fall, that's never a good sign. That means you're losing the match usually. Josh Alexander hit the low blow, but then Joe Hendry no-sold it, and then slightly awkwardly, I think he might have struggled to unhook, for want of a less vivid term, unhook it, but he did eventually reveal a cup with his face on it that he was wearing to protect himself from potential kicks in the ghoulies, because Josh Alexander has been known to kick Joe Hendry in the ghoulies. That was funny. The cup with his face on was brilliant. Shortly after, the referee's starting to come to, Joe Hendry hits the standing ovation, locks in the ankle lock again, and Josh Alexander taps again. So Joe Hendry submitted Josh Alexander with his own move twice in that match, which is crazy, but holds up my prediction of Joe Hendry winning. So I'll take it. 5 out of 7. Next up was The System versus ABC for the Tag Team Championship. Chris Bay had his ribs taped up after the match with... I've forgotten the name. It's just above First Class. That's their name. After the match with First Class on the most recent Impact. So the System obviously isolated Bay and were working the ribs. At one point, Eddie Edwards pushed Ace Austin off the apron. And Austin was like selling it like he'd hurt his ankle to the point where the ringside doctor actually went and checked on him. But it was a really quick check, so I wasn't sure if it was like just a sell, just a quick tweak that it turned out was okay, or like a potentially more serious issue. I figured with the doctor not spending much time with him, it was one of the first two options, but I wasn't sure. Anyway, he seemed fine after he got the hot tag. He seemed to be moving just fine. The end came when Alicia got involved. Brian Myers hit the spear, and then Eddie Edwards hit the Boston Knee Parted to Chris Bay for the 3. And I thought it was a good, if basic, tag match. Again, very much followed the bad guys work over the good guys, hot tag, little bit of a flurry of craziness, victory kind of format. Like, it's very formulaic tag team wrestling, I feel, in 2024. More so than it was a couple of years ago, I would say, personally. But I predicted the System to win. And I also in my prediction video guessed that we're going to lead into like maybe a triple threat match with the Hardys and ABC, maybe a ladder match. Could be a lot of fun. Hell, throw Hammerstone and Jake something in there. Like, why not? They probably won't know. Probably a triple threat. I don't know. Anyway, 9th match of the show, 7th of the main card, was Wendy Choo challenging Jordynne Grace for the Impact Knockouts Championship. There was a fun spot at the start where Wendy Choo screamed at Jordynne Grace's grandmother, and she screamed back at her, showing no fear to a professional wrestler, which is always fun. Like, takes away some of the aura about them, doesn't it? But then she stole Wendy Choo's pillow when she was going to try and hit Jordynne Grace with it, so that was funny. Match was fine, nothing to write home about. I've noticed Jordynne Grace kicked out a lot at 1 in the early stages of the match, which I think is a fun little character detail because she's the juggernaut, so she's really hard to slow down and stop. Later in the match, she actually looked like she was in peril, losing near falls, almost passing out and submitting and stuff. But yeah, I thought that was a good little detail for someone like Jordynne Grace to have of like early kickouts early in the match. Anyway, she hit the Juggernaut driver. She got the 3. There's not a lot to detail here. I predicted she'd retain 7 out of 9. I'm doing okay. I said in the predictions I don't necessarily understand TNA's booking philosophy always, so I might not do that well. But I'm doing okay here. After the match, Rosemary came out, hit a spear, then hit As Above, So Below, which if you like me wouldn't know it just from its name, I know that as the Wing Clipper. And then Wendy Choo locked in the Cobra Clutch. So I'm not sure if this is going to like continue, if there's going to be a rematch, or if this was just about getting Choo her heat back so she can continue to be a credible heel, despite the fact that basically since she's turned heel, she's lost every match. Because they've pushed her into title matches that they don't want her to win too soon, basically, after the heel turn, but whatever. Next, we had Santino in his office, and then Ariana Grace comes in, the I can't remember dignitary? Yeah, the relations person between the two companies is her on-screen role. And Santino gave her a big hug, and I realised at that point, and he said some other stuff about being proud of her. Is that his daughter? I remember hearing that his daughter was getting into wrestling, but I never linked the two. It must be weird working with your dad while he's doing that accent. Like, I wonder if Santino just walks around doing the Santino voice like at home anyway. Like, he seems like he might, to be honest. But yeah, if he doesn't, it must be weird talking to your dad and he's just coming out with that voice instead of his actual voice. But yeah, I don't even know really what was said. I think it was just a nice feel good segment between father and daughter. I don't think there was much substance to it. Then it was announced we'll hear from Joe Hendry on Impact, which, to me, after a big win, and then pre-announcing it like it's a big deal, I think that sounds like a title challenge to me, because Joe Hendry's on most episodes of Impact. I would expect that we hear from Joe Hendry on Impact, but they pre-announced it, so I think as I said in my predictions video, I think Joe Hendry wins that match and then goes on to challenge for the world title. Yeah, I think that's where we're going with it. Anyway, next, just before the main event, Frankie Kazarian comes out, gives Matt Raywald his scarf, goshes Tom Hannifen's water somewhere, and then joins them on commentary. And I put a potential Kaz versus Nemeth feud, could be fun. And I was putting that regardless of whether the world title would be involved. You know, it didn't really matter to me who won this main event in terms of whether Kaz versus Nemeth would be fun. Of course it would. It turns out there's already a bit of an ongoing feud, like Nemeth pinned Kaz to win the world title in that 6-way. Was it 6? That multi-man elimination match, however many it was, I think it was 6. Anyway, yeah, on to the main event. Moose challenging Nick Nemeth for the TNA World Championship. Kaz on commentary called Moose sharp as a bowling ball, which was a fun line. And I put in my notes, I'm calling it now Frankie Kazarian versus Joe Hendry for the #1 contendership. That's Joe Hendry's announcement as he plans to go for the world title. Frankie Kazarian interrupts him. Match gets made. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this was a very good main event. JDC and Alicia Edwards came down and distracted Nemeth long enough to get speared by Moose, but that was a 2. JDC then distracted the ref while Alicia Edwards slid the world title to Moose, but as he backed up into the corner to run at Nemeth and hit him with it, Mike Santana appeared and took it from him, took the belt from him, and then Santana and JDC brawled to the back, so that got rid of JDC. I don't know what happened to Alicia Edwards. I don't know where she went, actually, now that I come to think of it. Anyway, Moose was a bit distracted by that, so now Ziggler got to capitalise and hit a danger zone, but he only got a 2, which apparently is the first time anyone's ever kicked out of that in TNA, which I genuinely didn't know, because I'm used to the zigzag getting kicked out of all the time. So, yeah, cool. Bit more match, blah, 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 back and forth. There was a really good powerbomb into a Famouser counter, and then the remaining system members, Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, came down and pulled out the referee on 2, stopping the count. But the referee then got back in the ring and went to disqualify Moose, and Nick Nemeth begged him not to, so instead the referee ejected the system. Then they were arguing, and then suddenly JBL just turns up, punches one of them, clothesline from hell's the other one, picks the first one back up, clothesline from hell's him. I can't remember which order he did them in, who he was doing to what, or what he was doing to who, I should say. But yeah, he wiped them both out with clotheslines from hell. And for the first time I can remember on this channel, I went over my character limit on my notes app and had to start a new a new note. So Moose hit another spear and got another 2. And again, they were making a big deal on commentary about how that might be the first time anyone's ever kicked out the spear twice in one match. But they weren't as comprehensive about that one, so maybe it's not. But they said it's rare, which, yeah, I can believe it's his finisher, and he's a main event guy. There was a bit more back and forth. Second danger zone, 1, 2, 3. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Nick Nemeth is still the champion, and I predicted 8 out of 10 correctly. Go me. 80% is not bad. That's an A in the old GCSE scale when I was at school. So I'll take that. In fact, that might have been the threshold for an A-star. I don't know. Anyone else old and English, let me know in the comments. I can't quite remember. Overall, this was a very good show. Lots of fun watching it. A couple of weird results. The 2 I didn't predict correctly, I was surprised to be wrong about. There was a few that I was right about that I was quite 50-50 in my predictions video. But I was quite sure that they weren't just going to take the belt back off Zachary Wentz. And I was also quite sure that Eric Young and Steve Macklin were going to win and go on a bit of a run as a tag team. So I was surprised by those results. But as I said at the time, we'll see what happens before really, judging whether they were necessarily, bad booking decisions. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's... Some stuff's got to be surprising. Some stuff's predictable because it's the correct thing to do. Some stuff was hard to predict and I just happened to go the right way on the 50-50. So, yeah, overall, very good show. Very much enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to know if you enjoyed the show, what you thought of it. What was your match of the night? I think I'm going to go X Division title match. The main event was also good. And not from a technically riveting standpoint. But Joe Hendry and Josh Alexander had really good crowd participation, and that elevates a match. So that was probably third for me. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. It's greatly appreciated. And subscribe if you're new here. I upload lots of wrestling content, including predictions and reviews of as many TNA, AEW, WWE, NXT shows as I can. They're all the ones I do at the moment. I'm not up to date with New Japan and Ring of Honor, and have never watched any other wrestling outside of WCW, which obviously doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, maybe one day I'll go back into doing those, but at the moment that's what I cover. Share with your friends as well if they enjoy TNA, they watch the show. I'd love to get their thoughts, you know, get them to listen to mine, get them to put theirs in the comment section down below. Let's have a conversation. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Ebeza, you've been amazing, and I'll see you next time.